Before I could even see art created by dead people, I discovered anime through the TV that we had in our old house. This was in the Philippines, where my family had limited channels. Most of the channels consisted of Filipino shows, but 1 out of the 10 luckily showed 90s anime. I'm talking Fushigi Yugi, Lucky Star. Although that was some time ago, I still remember those days vividly. To turn on the TV after completing my homework, to listen to the openings and settle down on the sofa, to watch the show and laugh, just as a child would. Fun days. Still, maybe I was too young then. Or maybe I was consuming everything without really thinking, but watching those shows didn't inspire me. Not yet. The art that ignited the sense of, I want to draw like this, were the pieces created by dead people. Bach, Monet, Seurat, Van Gogh, Vermeer, Renoir, Da Vinci. When my family immigrated to the US, these were the pieces that were always introduced in art clubs and classes. I often thought, wow, how could they draw like this? How could they paint like this? At all while never understanding the hard work behind the art pieces. Then in high school, I was in French class for 4 years. Without fail, every single spring, the French and German classes would combine for a field trip to the Art Institute of Chicago. Large paintings displayed in a museum where spaces are quiet and contemplative. While staring at such art pieces, I remember awe morphing to inspiration. I want to paint like that too. What I realize now after numerous trials of learning art is that being inspired by these connoisseurs has some difficulties. When inspired by someone, we want to be like them. Not exactly to be an imitation, still it's a sense of, I want to be good at that too. To draw, to sing, to edit videos, to dance, etc. And it inflates expectations. For me, I wanted to draw as beautifully as these classical artists. Even while growing up, this desire grew when I discovered more animes, digital artists, whether it was on Instagram, Twitter, or while visiting more museums, complex, beautiful, vibrant, clean, unlike mine. Discouraged by my inability to create beautiful art, my inability to meet my inflated expectations, I would give up again and again until now. Now I know that before those artists could create what inspired me, there was also a time that they couldn't. There was a time where they struggled. Now I ask, how many pieces did they throw in the trash before being satisfied? How many years did it take before they could make such clean lines? How many years before they developed this coloring style? From how could they draw like this to how long did it take to draw like this? Art is a skill, it's not a talent. Talented artists are talented because they've long developed their style, and we perceive this style as beautiful. It's all about the process. Of course, realizing this doesn't mean that you can undergo numerous years of training now. Even a month can be daunting. I knew all of this during my last trial, and though I didn't give up, there was a part of me that lost motivation because I did not have the time. I was tired. I didn't have the desire. Excuses, the lot of them. Excuses that I could no longer use. I studied for the NCLEX for a month. When I took the test, I passed. This gave me the thought that I could study something intensively for a month and not exactly become a connoisseur, but I could build a foundation. After all, the hardest part of something is the learning process. I started with Japanese. It was successful to a certain extent. Then I studied editing to complete a month of learning Japanese. Most recently, I underwent a month of Sappho, which included improving my vocals. It was successful as well. 2 examples of success. I felt confident that I could do the same for art. And so, here we are. Per usual, the plan is as follows. Study, practice, challenge. Study. Okay, buckle up because this is going to hold the bulk of this mess. There were certain areas that I wanted to build a good foundation of. However, before we can dive deep into that, I have to explain the kind of style that I would like for myself. My role models span far and wide, from crisp line art to ambiguous linings, from a focus on the subject to a focus on the scenery, from muted or limited colors to cleverly spaced splashes of colors. So, what am I personally going for? There's the saying that an image speaks 1,000 words. However, what I want to create in the future are long strips of images, all compiling to convey 1,000,000 words towards a single story, a single plot, a single tragedy. That's right, I'm talking about manhwas, and or mangas. Specifically, I plan to publish webtoons as it's the only platform that I know of. Therefore, to talk about the style that I'm going for, I have to talk about the types of stories that I want to write. Psychological, philosophical. I want to narrate stories that will make my readers pause, their hearts so full of emotions that it might as well break apart. The kind of stories that forces their eyes to look outside, contemplating their own life, to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel comforted by the story, to feel hatred for the story, to feel. So, what did I need to learn? Anatomy, of course. There's a silver lining that was difficult to decide. It wasn't exactly that I wanted to focus on realism the way that classical artists did. However, I also didn't want to focus on anime style completely. The perfect fusion that I found were drawings by Diesel 2B, Billion, and Fua. What about anatomy did I need to learn? Of course, I needed to learn the body proportions. However, I also needed to focus on every single body part. So, there was the head, which consisted of the eyes, eyebrows and eyelids, nose, mouth, chin, and ears. To be honest, I focused the most on the eyes because they're the windows to the soul. Considering that I want to portray gut-wrenching emotions, I thought to prioritize the eyes. More so, many stylists draw the mouth as a simple oval and the nose as a dot. So I figured that I just needed a basic understanding of those two along with the ears. In the end, however, I got competitive with the ghosts of my room and learned a bit more than I planned. Someday, I'll draw a portrait. Lo and behold, I ended up drawing it for this video. Then there was the torso, which consisted of arms, breasts, chest, and stomach. I didn't quite expect this to be so difficult, but it was. The breasts are difficult to imagine. Anatomically, they kind of start at an awkward place. More so if you're drawing the arms, you're also drawing hands. Needless to say that I have a lot of difficulty with drawing hands. Then there was the lower body, which consists of the genital area, legs, and feet. Although I brought up the genital area, I didn't exactly learn it because A, I don't want to be banned on YouTube, and B, I won't be drawing NSFW anytime soon. I need to reiterate that I understand learning how to draw is not a 3 to 4 month journey, period. These 3 to 4 months were spent learning about art to build a foundation. I will learn NSFW once I am more comfortable with drawing and once I feel more comfortable to let my pervert out. That is not now. Then I studied clothing folds, and colors. Both of these appear simple, yet are horrendously complex. How can white seem grayish? How can white suddenly be yellow? Colors that should remain as they are can be perceived differently when paired with another color, and it's mind-numbing. Honestly. Same with clothing folds. With practice, it becomes simple, but it's difficult when one is prone to overthinking or perfectionism. The folds look out of place if you look too closely, then it's process of erase and draw again and again. So frustrating. The overall plan with anatomy was to know them enough that I don't always need references. However, again, I understand that a few months of studying would not build enough of a foundation that I can do so. So after learning to create the body, I needed to know how to create sceneries. What is scenery? For me, scenery equates to background. This is what sets the scenes of the character's story, the context to their pose or expression. Here I have two examples. Different vibes, right? So, the first week was spent on clouds, the sky, the horizon. Then I followed it up with the grass, the soil, trees, mountains. After that were houses, skyscrapers, and towers. Lastly, I focused on the ocean and water, along with light physics. Now, with all of this complete, I then combined everything and needed to learn about perspective and composition. This includes expressions. There are numerous types of perspectives used for art. I went as far as 5-point perspective, which is horrible. I can't even begin to explain it. After learning about perspectives, I learned compositions, and as far as I'm aware, the ones that I learned are as follows. I'll just list them out because there's too many of them. Was it a lot? Yes. Did I learn a lot? Also, yes. This is also the point at which I felt, how to say it, proud. A month of focusing on art is already a lot for me. That was perhaps the most that I ever did in my previous trials of learning art. 2 months? Wow. 3 months? Damn. I thought I had commitment issues, but maybe not. More so, understanding art and application of what I was learning began to bleed into my daily life. These compositions apply similarly in photography, so I started practicing them by taking photos with these compositions in mind. I started drawing with them in mind, and my hand was beginning to be more comfortable with drawing lines. My eyes became sharper, I was improving, even if it was just slightly. That was enough. Lastly, I studied expressions. Dynamic expressions are expressions that depict movement. However, I wanted to take this a step further. I wanted to learn poses and expressions that portray emotion. Considering the style that I'm trying to adopt, this is vital. So first, I studied general movement, specifically walking and running. Then I studied sadness. After that, fear, anxiety, panic. Then anger, confusion, irritation. And lastly, happiness. What I realized through this month of expressions is that if the emotion is so subtle, every feature comes into play. For example, with sadness, the eyes were important, but the key points were the curve of the eyes, tilt of the brows, the corners of the eyelids, and even the tilt of the chin. These portrayed the pursing of the lips, the curling of the brows, etc. I usually go for a clean look, but the clean look can appear flat when trying to express a certain emotion. With learning done, there was the idea of practice. Practice is engraving what you've learned into your brain, right? Well then, my form of practice was drawing the same thing over and over again until I felt a mediocre sense of confidence. Considering that I have perfectionistic tendencies and I'm short on time to build a foundation, I thought that this was enough. Of course, this is with the thought in mind that building a foundation is not the end-all be-all. I'm building a foundation so that it would be easier to practice this thereafter. Now, what really mattered was the next section. Challenge. Challenges for my study processes take what I already learned and practiced and apply it on a level that requires extensive research, time, and or effort. If the month of singing consisted of singing while exercising, singing the fragments of Sappho, and creating song covers, then the month of art will consist of creating art. What kind? For this month, rather this season of learning how to create art, my challenge is the start of this video. In my previous videos, I made use of PNGs and stickers from tenor.com. This time, and from here onwards, I will be using stickers that I made myself. So with Japanese, I'm continuing to learn and practice by watching learning Japanese videos and Japanese TikToks or streams, not to mention composing as many Japanese comments as I can, just to practice. With singing, I've been continuing to create covers and recreating Sappho's fragments. How will I continue to practice or learn art? In my previous trial of learning art, I created something called WIP. Artists already know that this means work in progress. However, it's often used to refer to a project that is incomplete or maybe abandoned, a draft, a sketch, a foundation of something, so to say. For me, I took this definition to refer to myself and my art journey. I am incomplete. My skills are unrefined. And that's okay, because my skills just need time and effort to be refined. To continue practicing art and making strides towards the webtoons that I want to create, I will be continuing WIP and starting numerous art series. So during my last trial, WIP was a cluster of a few things. Poems that I wrote and fandom characters that I liked, mainly Burosaka and CRK. I will continue these. However, henceforth, I will add portrayals of scenes in my stories. random narratives, so to say, and birthday art for my favorite VTubers. Alongside this, I will continue the following series from the last trial, learning the history of art through recreation and learning Japanese through art. However, for this video, the best way to portray how much I've improved is to recreate the first artwork that I ever posted for WHIP, a forget-me-not. Forget-me-nots mean a lot to me. At first, I thought that they're pretty. A bouquet of forget-me-nots are simple yet elegant and pretty in their own way. However, the more I thought of the name of the flower, the more it resonated with me in 3 ways. The first one representing I in me. I don't want to be forgotten. Not in the way that I want to be known forever, nor that I want to be famous, but that I want to be a positive and lasting person in the eyes of others. It doesn't have to be everyone. If I've helped even a single person in my life through my art, my covers, my songs, or anything that I've ever done, I can be happy. The second one representing them in me, the people that I've met in my life, the relationships that I've ever had, whether familiar, platonic, or romantic. Despite how they ended, I want to remember them, especially in a positive way. The third one representing you in me, the people who supported me and who continue to support me. Even if it's a second that someone cared to watch this, if even they never got to this part, I want to remember them. I don't like numbers, I don't like looking at analytics because this channel is a way for me to learn and keep records of my journey to being a VTuber, but the numbers allow me to see a proof of someone who came by. Now I have a new meaning for it, representing art in me, the beginning of this journey, the first proof of my dedication, the first time that I thought the process is what matters. I need to make the process enjoyable. This first time, a flower blossoming in the middle of nowhere, which others embarking on the same journey can find. I don't want to forget where I started and what ideas I had when starting off, and I hope that others can see it and feel inspired and encouraged in some way. I hope that this video and my journey is encouraging to someone. That's it for this video. I also created a playlist full of the videos that I watched so that others can watch them as well. Other than that, I will simply be continuing to draw, sing, and learn Japanese. Watch out for more drawings on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok. Per usual, my videos will also have thumbnails that I created, so there will always be examples that I'm continuing to challenge myself artistically. Toodles!